Well, it's official. Brexit is done. After 3 long years of debate and political back and forth, Britain finally broke away from the European Union. That is the official bell signaling Britain's independence from the EU. Right now, thousands of Brexit supporters are celebrating in the streets, chanting and cheering in central London. It's a chapter in history meant to unite Brits, but as Redmond Shannon reports, the divide is bigger than ever before.
A very British farewell to Brussels. The Brexit Party's European lawmakers getting ready to party.
Today we celebrate the beginning of our independence, our ability to control our own laws, our own trade deals, our own borders.
Back in London, things were already heating up.
And then piss on it!
Not exactly magnanimous. But this is a victory chorus from voters sick and tired of delays. The extreme ends of this poisonous debate, again drawn to Westminster's stage to display on this historic day.
Shove your Brexit up your arse.
Supporters of the losing side showed up too. What could have been a moment for all sides to move on is not encouraging any compromise.
For so many Britons, Brexit Day is a celebration, but effectively it's a day of symbolism. Come Saturday, nothing will really change. Britain's future relationship with the European Union has still to be decided.
Going to be a piece of cake. This transition agreement will be done by the end of the year. Why shouldn't it?
The Prime Minister's own father, confident his son will again prove the doubters wrong.
I am a proud father. Of course, it's a big day. I was a Remainer, but the nation voted in 2016. We had this massive majority in 2019. There was no question the country voted to leave. Here we go.
Prime Minister, if you could lean in a little bit, that would be lovely.
Young Boris, meanwhile, was far from home, bringing his entire cabinet north to pro-Brexit Sunderland. Physically and symbolically far removed from all the hot air of London.
I now have a motorbike, a 125cc motorbike. That is the biggest joy of my life. Anyway, now I've got to pass Brexit.
In Boris's words, he got Brexit done. But as his predecessor Winston Churchill once said, this is not the end, nor the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning.
Redmond, so given all that's happened, what form will a future relationship take?
Well, that is the big question, Robin, but perhaps the question for tomorrow. Right now, tonight here in London, people are still hanging around Parliament Square after the Brexit deadline passed, where there was such a huge buzzing electric atmosphere when that clock ticked at 11 o'clock tonight. People celebrating, not really worrying about that question for now. But yes, tomorrow, that self-imposed deadline from the UK government, an 11-month window to strike a free trade agreement with the EU. They're potentially looking at an agreement similar to one that Canada has with the EU. But that's a very short time frame. Boris Johnson says he will get that done again. And you can be sure that many people who came here tonight believe him. Robin?
Redmond Shannon in London. So many people outside London were waiting for this moment, wanting Britain to go it alone for years and leave the EU for good. Our Europe Bureau Chief, Goomansingh, spent time in England's north this week to find out why they wanted that and what they're looking for now.
St. Botolph is the focal point here. It's what's known as a calendar church. 365 stairs in the tower, 12 columns, and 52 large windows. But around here, days have been tallied waiting for Brexit.
I think we're rejecting globalisation, definitely. I don't think we're rejecting democracy.
Why reject globalisation?
Because it only benefits a tiny minority of people.
People here in Boston voted overwhelmingly in favor of Brexit, saying they were tired of politicians far away with no understanding of the community, telling them how to live their lives. It is a common complaint that we have heard time and time again about isolation from people across Europe, in the United States, even in Canada with Wexit.
First of all, I will ask the government to let us have some more money so we can tackle the issues with the infrastructure.
Global News first chatted with Anton Danny a year ago. Back then, he was a councillor. Now, as mayor, he's struggling with Europe's open border policy.
When you have 35,000 people jump into almost 80. You haven't got nothing. The infrastructure is hit the biggest. Then people, what they will do, they will resent the idea of migration. Because I cannot see my doctors within 2 or 3 hours. I have to see them in 3 weeks.
Armed with their EU passports, Eastern Europeans flocked to Boston. Skilled workers who filled big gaps in manufacturing and the agricultural sectors. Now, if they want to stay, they'll have to apply for residency.
I want to stay here because I have a contract. I'm happy with this.
But change is rough.
It's not going to be as clean as we think. It's not. It's not a hot knife in the butter. We're not going to go that way. Europe, they're going to make sure that we will have some difficulty to leave Europe.
But that doesn't matter to those who say they've never felt any tangible benefit to 46 years of being in the EU.
We're no better off now, the working people in this country, than we were under Queen Victoria. We might have homes, we might have central heating, and we might have colour televisions, but we're not treated any better.
And Crystal is back in the London Bureau. Crystal, the people you spoke to are generally happy, but do they recognize how divided their nation is over this issue?
Absolutely, and many of them shared stories about spats between friends and family, and no surprise that many were engaged in confrontations on social media. But now that Brexit is technically done, although there is still that transition period, they say they are hopeful about the future, and they actually use the word freedom, saying they at least have their sovereignty back. Robin?
Crystal Goomansingh in London.